Calling the roll for Nan Baker. Here. Dale Miller. Here. Trevor Macular serving as an alternate for Dan Brady. Here. Lenora Lockett. Here. Angie Rich serving as an alternate for Dennis Kennedy. Here. Armin Budish.
Here.
We have a quorum.
Minutes from May 29th. Any corrections? I move to approve. Is there a second? Second by Mr. Macular. All those in favor, please say aye. Opposed? Minutes are approved. Any public comment?
No public comment at this time.
Okay. One tabled item.
Yes. Item number BC 2018-338, Court of Common Pleas, Juvenile Court Division. It's a two-part item. A, submitting an RP exemption on requisition 42577, which will result in an award recommendation to Cleveland Communications, Inc. in the amount of $64,486.80, and is for the purchase of 120 Kenwood radios and accessories for detention center staff. And B, recommending the award in connection with said RP exemption.
Good morning, Karen Littman from Juvenile Court. We are looking for an exemption and an award approval for some radios. These are radios for the detention center staff. We're looking for 120 radios. We need 60 at a time, so this way half of them can be charging while the other 60 are in use by the staff. The accessories are sort of the additional batteries, the chargers, and the short antennas because the long ones get broken off quite easily.
Thank you. Any questions? Seeing none, I move to approve. Is there a second? Seconded by Councilman Miller. All those in favor, please say aye. Opposed? Item passes. Thank you.
Thank you.
New items for review. Item number BC 2018-349, Department of Public Works, submitting an amendment to a contract with Aramark Uniform and Career Apparel, LLC for floor mat rental services for various county buildings, and it's for the period September 1st, 2015 through August 31st, 2018, to extend the time period to October 31st, 2018, and for additional funds in the amount not to exceed $44,000.
Good morning, Tom Pavich, Department of Public Works. This item, we're looking to just amend this contract, add additional funds, extend it 2 months. We're going out for a new bid within the next few weeks. We're just looking for 2 months to give us ample time to go back out to bid. We basically have to rewrite the specifications, so it's taken a little bit longer than anticipated to go out to bid. The additional money, I think I mentioned in a reply back, we had, it actually wasn't 5 new buildings, it was services at 5 major buildings. So we added services at many of our buildings. The Justice Center was one of the larger ones. We added close to 15, I think I mentioned 14, was closer to $16,000 in new annual services. The original budget for the Justice Center complex was 2015. I will say it wasn't right, but that's why as we're getting ready to go out to RFP, we're actually going to rewrite the entire specification. We do have another contract with the same vendor, and this vendor was looking to amend this contract for up to 3 years. We're still looking to go out as part of our sourcing project to go out for RFP. So this is just, like I said, 2-month amendment, adding additional funds.
Any questions? Councilwoman Baker.
Okay, so the explanation that was given on the item details, this is a much broader explanation that you're giving.
Okay.
Yeah, so the 2 months for 44,000 is only to get us through to the end of
October.
That's
correct.
And then a whole new bid at that
Yes,
point.
we're in the process of doing a new RFP process. You know, in the past, it's been done as a bid, whereas this has service criteria that should be included. So I believe we're going to do an RFP.
Okay.
As with some vendors in this commodity, you know, you have to factor service into the actual contract as well, which wasn't factored in. So there's been some hiccups. We've been working with this vendor since the beginning of this year on this amendment. As I said, they wanted to do a long-term amendment, whereas it's not part of our plan. We actually want to go out to bid.
And just to follow, so will these, the 2 months that you are asking for, will the new bid cover some of the needs up here, or is this 44,000 going to take care of the 5 new buildings and the Justice Center and the,
No, the 44,000 covers everything that's current, so it'll cover everything that's in this contract in addition to the 2 months through October. The new bid would start fresh with a new budget for, however long we do, 2 or 3 months.
okay. Thank you.
Any other questions? Seeing none, I move to approve. Is there a second?
Second.
Seconded by Councilwoman Baker. All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Did I hear some ayes? Any opposed? Item passes. Thank you.
Thank you.
Next item, item BC 2018-350, Department of Development, recommending a payment in the amount of $130,000 to Downtown Cleveland Alliance for membership fees and operational support of clean and safe marketing and economic development initiatives. And it's for the period June 4th, 2018 through June 3rd, 2019.
Morning, everyone. Greg Huth with the Department of Development. This is the annual support and membership that we provide to the Downtown Cleveland Alliance. I think we're all aware of the resurgence that the downtown is going through right now, and it's due largely, or a great deal of it anyway, to the support and the work that DCA puts in through the marketing that they do for downtown, the Clean and Safe program, the business resources that they offer to people that really want to come into downtown. I was able to circulate last year's annual report as well as their 2018 budget. So it shows kind of how this organization is funded overall, and we would ask for your support here.
Thank you. Are there any questions? Councilman Miller.
Is this the same level of support that we've been providing in previous years?
To the chairman, yes, it is.
Further questions? Councilwoman Baker.
So the amounts that we're being asked to support, is there a specific report that comes, even if it's just annually, to show where those funds were placed and perhaps within that identification how it was used?
Mr. Chairman, with the councilwoman, no. Actually, you can see from their budget that they aggregate funds from all of the different resources that they have, including all the property owners who really contribute the lion's share of this through the assessment. So it's all gathered up so they can provide this whole list of services. This is not a fee-for-services arrangement. This is to help support the whole operation. So.
Further questions? Seeing you look puzzled. Yep, go ahead.
So I guess like the $130,000, just for example, for Downtown Cleveland Alliance, we don't really know what they use that $130,000 for. I understand there's other participants, and maybe only $5,000 of a $50,000 contribution went to encourage a business to come here, or whatever it is that we find the best use of those dollars. But do we have any idea what they use those funds for, and what companies perhaps we were even successful in getting because we allowed those funds to be used? And if not, can there be? Or, shouldn't we perhaps track that a little closer?
Mr. Chairman, of the Councilwoman, I actually don't see how that could work when you look at the scope of services that the Alliance provides. Again, when you see their annual report, their quarterly reports, it's a whole basket of services that they're providing to the region that the county benefits from. And trying to break it out that way, I'm not really sure how that could be done. It's never been done in the past. And this is a combination, again, I said, of our membership and the corporate and individual support that the county provides.
If I might just add, we contribute to a number of organizations. We contribute to Metro Hospital, for example, and we don't ever get a breakdown of how our $32 million is spent because you couldn't. It goes into their operating funds. Same with a number of other organizations.
In this case, though, this is for economic development initiatives, not really for services. I don't, that perhaps.
Well, it's for their operations, isn't it?
It's their overall operations. It's part of the $8 million that $8 million plus that they put into the downtown region that they serve.
Okay, so that's all I can.
We get an annual report from them, don't we?
Yes,
overall.
Yes. In fact, I circulated that.
You can see what they do.
Right, I
generally.
did see that, sure.
Yeah.
The report also that gives you an update on what's been happening in their district, in their jurisdiction.
if I may follow, do they exhaust every penny that we give them? Is there ever I don't.
Well, I've never known them to come back and ask for more, I guess. Is that the question?
There.
Mr. Chair, if I just may add to, Nan, in the past, I know we've had some of these individuals come in, just provide an overview in committee, like the sports commission has
Right.
come in, the film commission and others have come in, just, I think, to give a little bit more in-depth review in committee. So maybe that's an option we could also explore too. Not after this item, of course, but we've done it before for other items.
Wouldn't be a
I could certainly make that request. I'd simply be happy to do that.
And, just like you had Destination Cleveland, I mean, we provide a lot of money to Destination Cleveland. We don't get a breakdown of how our money is spent versus others, but we get a general report.
right, and maybe that would be helpful if these organizations can, right, at least give us some idea. If it wasn't for you, we wouldn't be able to do this type of thing. You know,
Okay.
This is the impact of what we do. Okay.
Further questions? Seeing none, I move to approve. Is there a second?
Second.
Seconded by Mr. McAleer. All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Item passes. Thank you.
Next item, item BC 2018-351, Department of Development, recommending a payment in the amount of $50,000 to Economic Growth Foundation for support of the Minority Business Collaborative and Marketplace. And it's for the period June 4th, 2018 through June 3rd, 2019.
Thank you again, Greg Huth from the Development Department. This is a new program, actually, that's coming out of the Greater Cleveland Partnership through the Commission on Economic Inclusion. It's done to support the growth of minority businesses throughout the region. This was actually one where we were able to get a budget from them that specifically said where the county's money was going. I hope that got around to everybody. There's specific programs that we are going to be funding, some of their leadership counseling and some of their indirect expenses and other marketing. They've gotten also support from PNC and the foundation. They've got a couple other foundations yet that are still outstanding that they're waiting for responses on.
Thank you. Any questions? Councilman Miller.
Just a comment that the most recent disparity study that we completed shows disparities continuing to exist, and particularly in the area of prime contracting. We've done better in subcontracting. So certainly there's a need for this kind of program.
Thank you. Further questions? Seeing none, I move to approve. Is there a second? Seconded by Councilman Miller. All those in favor, please say aye. Opposed? Item passes. Thank you.
Next item, item BC 2018-352, Department of Development, recommending a payment in the amount of $25,000 to Greater Cleveland Partnership for communications, outreach, and operational support of the Greater Cleveland Civic Connection Program. And it's for the period June 4th, 2018 through December 31st, 2018.
Thank you. This is a program used to be known as Build Up Greater Cleveland. It's actually a collaboration of 5 different partners, plus the Greater Cleveland Partnership includes the county, city, Port Authority, RTA, and the sewer district all contributed $25,000 to develop a strategy for how we develop infrastructure going into the future. And again, this is when we were able to circulate the last year's, or the 2016 annual report rather, as well as their current budget.
Thank you. Questions? Seeing none, I move to approve. Is there a second? Seconded by Mr. McAleer. All those in favor, please say aye. Opposed? Item passes. Thank you.
Thank you.
Next item is a two-part item, item BC 2018-353, Department of Information Technology. A, submitting an RFP exemption on requisition 42657, which will result in an award recommendation to Technology Advisors, Inc. in the amount of $4,800 for the purchase of one Starfish Extract Transfer Load Standard Integration Annual License for use by the Department of Health and Human Services. And B, recommending the award in connection with said RFP exemption.
Good morning, Board. Dennis Sullivan, Department of IT. This is a department order request for $400 a month. It's a subscription service. The ETL stands for Extract, Transfer, and Load. What this middleware is going to do is going to allow the legacy systems on the HHS side to extract the data and put it in a format that'll be used by both the ERP and the CRM. Again, it's a subscription service. It's $400 a month, and this will make possible on the HHS side caseworker client lookup and also history of benefits received, all the programs actively involved in or past involvement. Try and get all that data and all that information down to one lookup, one screen availability.
Thank you. Questions? Councilman Miller.
Is this something that we have to do one time to facilitate the development of new systems, or is it something that's required on an ongoing basis?
I had asked that question. I do not know the definitive answer, Dale. I know that it's going to be needed for X amount of time. They started with a one-year subscription. They don't know how much afterwards, but I believe ultimately there's going to be a level attained where everything has been converted, everything is in the new system.
Thank you. Further questions? Yes?
Lenore Lockett, Office of Procurement and Diversity. It's a one-year license. What are the dates for the 1 year? Is that
It's a month-to-month subscription. The $400 a month times 12 comes out to the $4,800
So what month? Are you beginning mid-month? Are you beginning just trying to?
upon approval. Nothing, there's been no services or
So the
nothing
date
yet.
would be today?
The subscription would be signed up upon approval.
Are you going to start it immediately, or are you going to start like July 1st or June 15th? What's your plan?
I don't know what HHS plans are, but it's
Will you
certainly
get
no
back?
earlier than, yeah, we can get back to Lenore,
Thank you.
absolutely. What dates of initial?
So it's contingent upon a 1 year date, month to month?
Okay.
Or would y'all like us to put a date and we come back and amend?
Why don't we put in today's date, and then
Okay.
that way they won't be hindered.
If you'd like to do that, we could just tell them that that's the date of
Great.
approval going forward. Okay. So 6/4/18 to 6/3/19. Thank you.
Further questions? Seeing none, I move to approve. Is there a second? Second by Councilman Miller. All those in favor, please say aye. Opposed? Item passes. Thank you.
Thank you.
Next item, item BC 2018-354, Department of Human Resources, submitting an amendment to a master agreement with Metro Health System for biometric screening services at the county wellness fairs. And it's for the period June 6th, 2018 through December 31st, 2018, and for additional funds in the amount not to exceed $40,000.
Good morning, Pat Smock on behalf of the Department of Human Resources. As stated, this is an amendment to the Master Services Agreement with Metro Health. We're adding an amount not to exceed $40,000. We have scheduled 11 employee wellness fairs, and they'll be doing biometric screenings for us. This is generally has been a standalone contract in the past, and we're advised to handle this as an amendment to the Metro Health Master Services Agreement this year. All of the currently booked wellness fairs are during the month of June. And we've served over 1,000 employees last year. We've seen an increase year to year, and we look to increase as well again this year.
Thank you. Questions? Councilwoman Baker.
So if you were to continue the contract after this expires, you will include this in the master plan? It won't come back as an amendment?
The master service, this master service agreement that we're working off of now expires at the end of this year. So we would come back next year either as an amendment to a new master service agreement, or if one doesn't exist, we do it as a standalone contract.
If I may, but your intention is that these funds that we're asking for now will be part of the master contract that you'll be asking for next year, and not as a $40,000 in addition to that contract? Is that the idea, so that you're not going out for separate bid?
The master services agreement isn't within our department. It's a Health and Human Services contract. So first we'd have to see if they in fact have a master service agreement with Metro Health next year. And then at that point, should we utilize Metro Health for biometric screenings, we would amend if they have a master service agreement. If they don't, then we do a standalone contract. I hope that answered your question.
It does. So because it's two different departments, you can't just put your request in with theirs and they have one master contract, is what I'm asking.
We could do that, but they generally do a multi-year contract, and we prefer for the biometric screenings to do a single-year contract. We're not sure what's going to occur in the follow-up years, so I think it's safer from the county's perspective to do it year to year in this regard.
Thank you.
Further questions? Seeing none, I move to approve. Is there a second?
Second.
Seconded by Councilwoman Baker. All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Item passes. Thank you.
Next item, item BC 2018-355, Department of Sustainability, submitting an amendment to a contract with Solar United Neighbors Corporation for implementation and coordination of two solar co-ops to provide solar energy outreach and training services to residents of Cuyahoga County. And it's for the period November 13th, 2017 through October 30th, 2018, to extend the time period to December 31st, 2018, to expand the scope of services effective June 4th, 2018, and for additional funds in the amount not to exceed $10,000.
Thanks, Mike Foley from the Department of Sustainability. We currently have a contract with Solar United Neighbors. They're a national nonprofit. They run our residential solar co-op. They do a really good job doing information sessions, kind of coordinating, organizing the program. Additionally, we have two buildings at least, maybe three, that the county has that we're looking to do, put solar on our facilities. So the animal shelter, the medical examiner's office, maybe the public works facility in Newburgh Heights. As we've been thinking about this, we wanted to do an RFP on this, but we also want to broaden who's eligible to kind of partake in it. So RTA is interested in this, Cleveland Heights is interested in this, some other local governments are also interested in doing solar on some of their facilities. And so what we want to do is kind of one broad RFP process, asking Solar United Neighbors to help us both compile it, help us score it, put it together, ask for the right things. And hopefully what we'll do is we'll get a big enough bundle that we'll have good bulk purchasing. We'll be able to attract a developer who is interested in the federal tax credits. And we also want to kind of do this quickly because we think that the tax credits that currently exist, are 30% federal tax credit, expire, they start stepping down in 2019. And we know that in 2019, there's going to start being a run on purchase of solar panels. So we want to kind of get ahead of the curve if we can do that. So this is to amend the contract with Solar United Neighbors, add $10,000 into it, and help them, or ask them to help us kind of put together this group, local government co-op that we're anticipating.
Thank you. Any questions? Councilman Miller.
How many residential solar panel projects have been done in Cuyahoga County through these co-ops so far?
So last year we had over 200 people sign up to be interested. 32 actually went through and actually installed solar panels. It was about $600,000 worth of work, and through the co-op it saved $100,000 for the participants. So, and in terms of employment, there was over 15,000 staff hours of employment involved in it. So it's 7.5 full-time jobs basically were created from the co-op last year. We're in the second iteration of the residential, so there's already been kind of one tranche of 100 that have gone forward, and panels are being they're in the middle of doing installations right now. I'm not sure what the numbers are yet in terms of who's going forward. We've got a second tranche that we're right in the middle of also of signing people up for. That'll end by the end of June, and hopefully we'll have at least what we had last year in terms of economic development.
Okay, thank you.
Sure. Councilwoman Baker.
So the $10,000 that is being asked is not really for outreach and training services to residents of Cuyahoga County, but it is actually for an assessment of the program that's already in place and to try to expand those services through an RFP process. Is that what I'm hearing?
It's really to do kind of this local government co-op. So it's a second co-op on top of the residential, be a kind of a local government co-op basically, and kind of group buying, group procurement with local governments to hopefully get better prices and kind of have a group of folks who are involved in this and hopefully attract a developer, because if you can attract a developer, then you can get someone who's interested in the tax credit, which helps pay down the price. So it's one of the things that helped us out in the Brooklyn landfill project is we were able to get a tax credit investor who actually owns those panels for at least the first 6 years, and they put in about 20% of the cost.
Just for clarification, so this is something where we are going to analyze more than we are going to be reaching out to our residents and businesses. This is different than what the original funds that we're asked to do is doing.
Correct.
Okay. It didn't quite read that way in the explanation of it read more of the same of what we've been doing, and we're going to do it for 2 more months, not so much, although in the detail you do go into a little bit of the governmental piece. But so for clarification, this is really to analyze more than it is to have meetings talking to residents and businesses.
It's helping to put together the RFP and do the analysis of the responses that come back in for the local government portion of it.
And $10,000 in November and December is what you need to do that.
Mm-hmm.
Thank you.
Sure. Further questions? Seeing none, I move to approve. Is there a second? Seconded by Councilman Miller. All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Item passes. Thank you.
Next item, item number BC 2018-356, Department of Public Safety and Justice Services, Office of Emergency Management, submitting an amendment to a contract with Granicus LLC for a mass notification system for the period June 10th, 2013 through June 10th, 2018, to extend the time period to March 10th, 2019, and for additional funds in the amount not to exceed $70,871.06.
Good morning, Mary Beth Vaughn from Public Safety. And this contract is for the county's Ready Notify system, which is the county's mass notification system. Currently, we have 26 communities and 10 county or community agencies using the system. We reached out to the vendor back in November to obtain a quote in order to continue the service. In January of this year, they advised us that they intended to discontinue the product. So at that time, we started working on a new RFP, which actually released today, for a new mass notification system. And at the same time, we worked with the vendor to extend the existing agreement, and they've agreed to provide the services through March of next year. Our plan is to actually have the contract in effect by the fall, and so the March 10th is actually giving us some additional time. We actually intend to go live. We're hoping to go live before that. This amendment is extending the time. It also allowed for the out clause, so it would allow us, if we do get done and get tested with the system much earlier, we could discontinue the contract with Granicus early. I would point out that currently the vendor had a problem re-registering with the Inspector General. The system kept telling them they were registered and wouldn't let them make the payment online. So they have mailed the check. So I'm asking if you would approve this contract contingent on the county receiving the check, updating their registration with the Inspector General.
Thank you. Does Inspector General have anything?
Your team was awesome and IT was awesome. There's just something, and they've sent us screenshots. Your guys reset them, I think, like 4 times. IT reset them a couple times. It's just, there's a fluke in the system today, last week.
So I think the substances, they are registered with us, but it's not showing on the forms.
Well, they have to send their payment for their renewal, and that's what we're actually waiting to physically receive. They did send the check in last week, so it's in the mail.
Great.
I have one.
Councilwoman Baker.
Thank you. Is there a reason why, since we knew let's see here, reaching out, we knew in January of 18 that this was going to be discontinued, that we waited until June to start the process of an RFP?
We didn't wait to start the process in the RFP. Although we've actually been working diligently for us as soon as we heard about this. Our process first is we went through the RFP process to get the current system in 2012, 2013. So our first step was to we did a request for information and asked everybody who was in the business to actually just give us a demo of what's currently out there so we could make informed specifications. So we did that for a short period of time, and then we took the information we got from there and actually created specifications. We worked with the IT as well as with the technology consultant that we have on contract to go through this process. So no, we didn't waste any time.
So it took 6 months to work through, as what you just explained, to come to today to get the RFP out.
Correct.
Okay, thank you.
Further questions? Councilman Miller?
My question is, do you have a general idea of how many vendors are out there that could potentially provide the new service?
We know that with the community, there's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. With Granicus getting out, we know that there's at least 7 vendors that are out there that are currently being used by other communities in Cuyahoga County. And so we've made sure that we've included them on the plan holders list that we've sent out. I think our actual plan holders list might have about 10 people on it.
Hopefully you can get some competition.
We are hoping.
Okay, good.
Further questions? Seeing none, I move to approve. Is there a second? Second by Councilman Miller. All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Item passes. Thank you.
Thank you.
The next item is a two-part item, item BC 2018-357, Court of Common Pleas, Juvenile Court Division. A, submitting an RFP exemption on requisition 42541, which will result in an award recommendation to Center for Children's Law and Policy in the amount not to exceed $57,600 for assessment and technical assistance services related to the operations of the juvenile detention facility. And it's for the period May 23rd, 2018 through May 22nd, 2019. And B, recommending the award in connection with said RFP exemption.
Good morning again, Karen Littman with Juvenile Court. This is an award recommendation and contract with the Center for Children's Law and Policy. This was an organization that when we were in our search process for a new detention director, that we became aware of individuals involved with this organization and some of the services that they provide, and realize that they can do a full assessment and then provide some technical assistance for the detention center. So we decided to engage a contract with them to bring them in, and they actually do sort of soup to nuts everything in the detention center, from intake, health and mental health services, programming, access to the detention center, training, supervision, the environment, policies. It's really sort of every nuance of the detention center operations. So they came in, they utilize as sort of their standard the JDAI, which is Juvenile Detention Alternative Initiative, which is an initiative that's started by the Annie E. Casey Foundation. They have put together these standards. There's 900 standards. They came in and looked at all 900 standards and our detention center, and then putting together 2 reports. And then from that, there's going to be a little bit of technical assistance after that. So they came in for 3 days to do a visual. We sent them a bunch of information on before them coming, and then they came in and did the visual inspection for 3 days.
Thank you. Questions?
Just a comment.
Mm-hmm.
I think there's a clear need for improvement in our operation. And I think there's a high probability that if you make good use of their services, that you can more than get your money's worth.
Thank you. Yes, so we fully are aware that having someone from the outside come in and help us tell us what we're doing right as well as what we can improve is something that I think anyone could benefit from, but certainly the detention center, especially with a lot of the issues and incidents that have happened of recent.
Further questions or comments? Seeing none, I move to approve. Is there a second?
Second.
Seconded by Councilman Miller. All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Item passes. Thank you.
Next item, item BC 2018-358, Department of Health and Human Services, Cuyahoga Job and Family Services, recommending an award on requisition 42340 and enter into a contract with Playhouse Square Hotel Limited Partnership, doing business as Crown Plaza Cleveland Hotel at Playhouse Square. And it's in the amount not to exceed $13,889.78 for catering services and audiovisual equipment for the Fatherhood Conference for the period June 14th, 2018 through June 16th, 2018.
Good afternoon. This is Al Grimes, Director of the Fatherhood Initiative. This is our 14th annual Fatherhood Conference, which is our annual forum that we have to celebrate healthy father-child relationships, address issues that come as a result of father absence, and strategize how we can make sure that every child in the county has a productive relationship with their child. We'll have a resource fair, a plenary session, town hall meeting, workshops, and an awards luncheon. For this contract, 5 bids were received. The Crown Plaza offered the lowest and best proposal overall. And one thing you'll note is that we got $10,000 again from the St. Luke's Foundation, and this is the 9th consecutive year that they've shown tremendous support for the Fatherhood Conference. I ask for your approval.
Thank you. Are there any questions? Seeing none, I move to approve. Is there a second?
Second.
Second by Councilman Miller. All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Item passes. Thank you.
Next item, item BC 2018-359, Department of Health and Human Services, Division of Children and Family Services, recommending an award on requisition 42750 and enter into an agreement with University of Delaware in the amount not to exceed $10,800 for consultant and training services for the Attachment and Biobehavioral Catch-Up ABC Intervention Program. And it's for the period June 1st, 2018 through May 30th, 2020.
Good morning, Bob Math with the Department of Health and Human Services on behalf of Division of Children and Family Services. We're looking to enter into another contract with the University of Delaware to provide training, clinical supervision, and consultation in a treatment modality called Attachment and Biobehavioral Catch-Up Intervention. This was a model that was developed by a doctor at the University of Delaware in their Psychological and Brain Science Department. It works with families that have children placed with them that have been exposed to trauma and neglect and abuse. And the training is there's 2 DCFS staff that are trained in this modality that they can exercise with families that experience this trauma.
Thank you. Questions? Seeing none, I move to approve. Is there a second? Second by Mr. McAleer. All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Item passes. Thank you.
Thank you.
We are now on to the consent agenda, items 360 to 364. Does anybody have any questions? Yes, go ahead. Thank you.
Couple questions.
Councilwoman Baker.
All right, and this also includes the travel,
Yes, that's 363, I believe.
363. The BC 2018-362, this is from January 1st, 18 to December 31st, 18. Were there any funds that were needed in that first 6 months, whoever's here? Because we are now in June, how did we cover the services that were needed in the first 6 months?
Bob Math on behalf of Division of Children and Family Services. No, there are no additional funds. This is adding some. There are a couple providers that had children placed with them where the children needed additional level of care. So it still falls within their current budget to provide these services. So we just added some levels of care for a few children. And it affected 3 of the providers. And since it's a master agreement, other providers had to re-sign it. But there are no additional funds.
If I just, so the first 6 months, because this contract goes back to 1/1, you had no children in need that needed.
For that level of care, the children didn't need that level of care earlier in the year. It's just current.
They did not.
It did not.
Okay. And if I may, this will extend to the end of the year, so you're addressing those children that are in need now?
That's correct.
And is there funds left to address any other children that may be coming, or is it just specifically for these children that you have identified?
It's just for these children that are identified, but depending on the number of children that are placed in these facilities, there may be, there's still additional dollars in the contract.
Got it.
In the master
Thank you.
contract.
Good, thanks.
Any other questions on any of the consent agenda items?
A couple on the travel, if you don't mind.
Mm-hmm.
Let's see. There was going to be a representative addressing the travel for the
Department of Information Technology, and it's for Mike DiMarino and Mike Andrews.
Yes. We have one person that is driving and one person who is not. And
Correct.
I guess the question was, why can't they both drive if they're both going down to the same conference, same days, same place?
It's more expensive to drive. It initially started off as if one was going to fly and one was going to drive. And then as a department rule, what we did was we capped the mileage at the airfare rate. If you notice, they're the same. And we also capped the ground transportation to the parking rate. So if you didn't have your own vehicle and you flew, you wouldn't have the expense of the hotel parking, which is per diem also. This request initially started at over $8,200 and is now down to the $7,800 due to that fact. In regards to why, one prefers to fly and one prefers not to fly.
I guess if you have two people going to the same place or the same conference for the same reasons, that if one is driving, they would both go together, that's all. But are you saying it's a wash because you've adjusted other?
The mileage would have been upwards of like $566.
Okay,
And the mileage now is being capped at the airfare rate.
I see that. All right, thank you.
Any other questions? Yes, Mr. McAleer.
Mr. Chair, it's not really related to the travel question, but I know related to the ERP project, we're planning to go live around those dates on a couple items in fiscal. And I just know Mike DiMarino and how valuable he is when it comes to the system. Is that going to be an issue, or we're going to be covered in IT just to ensure the value he brings will be there for when we go live for those ERP specifics in fiscal? I believe it's fiscal.
First of all, Trevor, he'd love to hear you say how valuable he is. If you know
I wouldn't admit that to him.
I am not aware of the actual individual module rollout dates. I don't work with that venue at all. I don't know if Janelle can add something to it or not, but specific to him being gone during an implementation period, I can't answer for that.
Janelle Green, Department of IT. Mike has the ability to remote in via VPN access, so he has a laptop. If that ever becomes an issue, he can just hop out of a training course and address any needs remotely, if that's an issue.
Thank you.
Thank you. Any other questions? Councilwoman Baker.
In reference to the number of people that will be driving, and particularly there's one to Columbus, but there are a couple others, as one to Nashville. And I know that we check the licenses every year to make sure that they're all updated. But when we have specific trips like this, and something could happen in the interim of when they first gave their license and perhaps life between then and a trip like this, do we check those licenses just to make sure that they are, responsible?
I am not familiar myself individually, Nan, with all the travel requirements, but I thought the license verification, that was only if they were driving a county vehicle in the past.
That's another question.
They would be driving an individual vehicle in this particular case, or personal vehicle.
Even though
Also,
this is on company time.
Right. The license verification has always been an HR function. So we can have HR, because that's something we do enter through my HR module within the system. We can have HR go back and re-verify, because we wouldn't have the means or the authority to check individual licenses. So we can have HR do that.
So 2 questions. One is, if they're not driving a county vehicle and they get into an accident, or they have a DUI or something that is not good for them to be on county time driving, are they excused because it's their own vehicle? And then the second question is, are they interimly checked when they go on a specific trip for their valid license, even though they passed perhaps in January? So those are the 2 questions that I would have.
Right. I mean, that's something we can definitely follow up with HR, because, again, that goes out of the IT departments or any department's purview, I would think. So we do need to follow with HR to verify that. But I think the purpose of it coming to Board of Control for verification is about that liability piece. It doesn't excuse any driver from driving impaired or having accidents or anything like that, because there's definitely still on the hooks. But it also determines what's the liability of the county versus what's their personal liability. Right. But in terms of verifying individual licenses and things like that, we'll have to work with HR in order to verify that driver is clear to drive.
I think the IG might have.
Would our Inspector General like to comment?
Yes, thank you. Mark Griffin, Inspector General. With regard to two separate issues, one is liability and risk to the county. If they are driving on county time, then we are exposed to possible liability. And so our requirement for having a valid driver's license is not simply for driving county-owned vehicles, but any vehicle in the course of county business. With regard to checking and verifying driver's licenses, my office, by ordinance, does it at least twice a year. In working with risk management and HR, we have contracted with software provided by Progressive Insurance called Samba. And so although HR was going to do it on a rolling basis, a monthly basis, they've now asked us to do it on a quarterly basis. So we do check quarterly, and although the sign-up is through the HR model, the actual checking is through the IG's office. We do not do it in advance of particular long trips, although we're happy to do that if we're requested. So every month, Progressive Insurance, through their Samba package, puts together a list of, it matches against our list of people who have disclosed that they drive in the course of county business to indicate the status of their driver's license. So although we're doing it now quarterly, we can absolutely do it on request, but it'll be updated within 30 days. It's not a real-time update.
Thank you.
Just as a follow, so in the normal course of business is different perhaps than 27 staff employees driving perhaps for the first time using their vehicles to a location and back on county business. Would those 27 staff members be checked in either your yearly, twice a year, or 4 times a year?
I'm not sure I understand your question exactly, so let me try to explain the process and see if that works. On an annual basis, we ask for every employee to disclose whether they drive in the course of county business, and we send that list to supervisors to say, hey, here are the people who have disclosed and they're permitted to drive. So if someone is not on that list, we would expect the supervisor either to reach out to us or to tell that person they can't drive in the course of county business. Okay. I don't know if that answered your question or not.
I guess in your explanation earlier, in the course of business where they usually drive, they're in meetings, that's their job, is to be going to different places, perhaps throughout the state, maybe in shorter distances. This particular case, perhaps are employees that typically don't drive to a conference. 27 is pretty considerable. Maybe 10 of them have never taken a journey before on county business in their own car. Are those employees checked beyond your once a year or twice a year? And is it a policy that the departments check to make sure that those employees that typically don't drive on company time are covered?
So they're checked twice a year, but I think what you have disclosed in this conversation has made clear that my office needs to do a better job of educating people. If they're asking for mileage, that's in the course of county business. And so anytime you're asking for mileage, that means you have to have a driver's license. And if we haven't done a good job of explaining that, there's a sentence in the disclosure, but obviously that's not sufficient. So we need to do a better job of explaining that.
If I may, if they're asking for mileage, isn't that usually after the fact?
Yes, so they should know in advance that it's going to be in the course of county business. If they expect to charge the county for their mileage,
right,
they need to have a valid driver's license because we are on the hook if they have an accident.
And what is in place today that says that they will be checking, that they will be asking in advance for their mileage? What's in place today to say that, Joe Smith is now going to drive to Columbus, has never in his time of being here has ever driven a car anywhere beyond coming back and forth to work, but now is going to go to this conference? What do we have in place that says his driver's license was checked besides once a year?
Let me give you a partial answer and also confess to you that I don't know everything that is in place. We've issued the travel policy, which we also circulated on Friday via email to everyone, which says that. But again, that's about a 10-page travel policy, and I suspect that most people hit delete on the email without ever reading it, right? So although there is a policy in place, there has to be education that goes forward. So again, we check twice a year, and we communicate to supervisors that they need to have this. But I think what you're driving at, which is correct, which is we need to do a better job of explaining this. if a supervisor says, oh yeah, go take this trip, I don't know how we can stop that in advance other than to hope that they are aware of the rules and think about it. But
Okay, I guess I would say if that happens where we have our employees driving that is unusual in their job to do, not only should they perhaps be aware that a director should be aware that, hey, we should check, it should be mandatory. I mean, it should be, that's just something that's done, not, we hope that they know the rules kind of thing. And then if there is an accident or a DUI or something that happens, we go back and reflect, why wasn't their driver's license checked before they left? That's all.
I think you're right. I think that'll be our next ethics update. So.
Okay, thank you.
Good. Any other questions? Mr. McAleer.
Mr. Chair, just one comment since the Inspector General brought up the advisory that he sent out on Friday related to the travel policy. I know one of the items, it's been changed, but the DCFS, Case Western Reserve,
yes,
related to what the Inspector General sent out on Friday, that vendors, county vendors cannot pay for travel of employees. So the Inspector General looked at that and opined that the funding source should be changed for that. So I know it's now the county paying for that.
Correct. County Executive, if I may, I want to say thank you to everyone here because what we're trying to do is create a culture of compliance and awareness. So we really appreciate the questions that come to us because I think everyone in this room wants to make sure that we comply with the rules and comply with the law. And so this was an example of where we raised an awareness on one issue. And obviously, as we've talked about today, there are other issues that we need to do as well. But, this was an opportunity that we avoided a potential violation of the law. And so I want to say thank you to everyone for cooperating with that.
And I will say that Mr. Griffin has been very good about taking his education side of his jobs very seriously. He's spoken to the directors on certain issues. He's spoken to the chiefs. And I'm sure he's going to continue to do that effort.
We have a 7:30 a.m. ethics training tomorrow morning with facility supervisors. I think that's painful, but we're trying.
Thank you. Any other questions? Seeing none, I move to approve the items on the consent agenda. Is there a second?
Second.
Seconded by Councilman Miller. All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? The consent agenda items are approved. Other business.
Armin, there was another question.
Oh, I'm sorry. Oh, yes,
Yeah.
yes. We recognize the recusal.
Could you just
Indicate that, yes.
Under other business.
Business.
I heard a rumor that your birthday was on Saturday. Is that correct?
I don't think that qualifies as other business. Maybe monkey business, but not other business. Yes, that is true. Thank you.
Happy birthday.
Thank you.
Yes.
Thank you.
We do have other business. We have a mission critical item from the Cuyahoga Job and Family Services.
Yes.
Bob Math is coming up to address the item.
Bob Math on behalf of Division of Children and Family Services. This is a mission critical placement for a teenage boy that was currently in residential care at a facility that was experiencing all sorts of behavioral issues, and the current facility could not continue providing care. And DCFS staff located a provider by the name of Resource Residential Treatment Facility in Indianapolis that could handle this child's particular behavioral issues, and the child was placed there as a mission critical, then probably ultimately add them eventually to the master list if we continue to use that provider.
Thank you. I move to amend today's agenda to consider the item. Is there a second?
Second.
Seconded by Councilman Miller. All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? The agenda is amended. Are there any questions on the item?
I would just like to state that the dollar amount is $24,999.99. Correct?
That's correct.
Okay. Any questions? Seeing none, I move to approve the item. Is there a second?
Second.
Seconded by Mr. McAleer. All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? The item is approved.
Thank you.
Any other business?
No other business at this time. No public comment.
To adjourn, is there a second? Nobody wants to leave the room. Seconded by Mr. McAleer. All those in favor, please say aye. Opposed? We are adjourned. Thank you. And thank you, Councilman Miller.